Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, all you hims, hers, theys, and thems. Welcome to this edition of the OTT.X Wednesday Webinar series. I'm Eric Hansen, and on behalf of the whole team at OTT.X, we're thrilled you're joining us today. It is a privilege to share with you the experience, insights, and information from the people that are shaping the OTT streaming industry. The meteoric rise of fast channels in the entertainment industry has created inefficiencies in tracking how content performs, leading to insufficient performance insights and data around programming decisions, financial reporting, and revenue recognition. Today, we're excited to have with us Michael Sid, Chief Strategy Officer for WIP Media, to discuss the latest best practices to simplify the content supply chain, automate partner payments, and track performance to help boost your fast channel business. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Eric. And thank you, everybody. Welcome to OTT.X Wednesday webinar. And as Eric stated, my topic today is going to be about being able to track content performance and fast performance everywhere. So let me share my screen. Okay. All right, so I mean, I think we all constantly hear that fast is growing, well, really fast, and I'm sure you have all seen fast revenue predictions like this. Here's one from Omdia about fast channel revenues reaching $12 billion in 2027. I printed this from Omdia, but I'm sure you've seen this in plenty of other folks' presentations. The fast channel revenues just seem to be growing and growing and growing and growing. And of course, you've probably all seen charts like this saying fast channel growth numbers are through the roof, comparing June 23 versus January 22. In this case, it's January 22 versus June 23. Whichever way you kind of look at it, the number of channels is just growing and growing and growing on each of the services. You can see it charted here. You can see it charted there. We all see this, so we all know that fast is getting to be really important. You really can't ignore it. You really got to be part of it. And I'm sure lots of you listenings are part of it or are connected to it. But what I'm going to talk about today is adjacent to that, and is kind of the next step. I mean, I think we all accept that fast has got to be something we all have to do. Today, we're going to go a little bit deeper, and I'm going to talk a bit about the reporting that you're going to need if you have fast channels and how you get it. So, I mean, probably saying reporting, sure. Data, sure. If I've got a fast channel, I need to have data, of course. Unfortunately, it's a little bit easier said than done. So, but let's first talk about why you might need reporting. And though it seems kind of a straightforward thing, let's go to some very specific needs of why, if you have a fast channel, reporting is really kind of important to you. So why is reporting important? So first off, of course, I mean, you're there, you've got your fast channel, you need to program your fast channel, and reporting just helps you program your channel better. You need to know how your content is performing in different time slots, different times of the day, what titles are working better in which time slots. You want to see, okay, is there something that maybe at some point I should start thinking about replacing some content? I need to refresh content on my channels to keep it going, to keep it fresh. But maybe there are things that, keep resonating with folks. Maybe there are things that don't quite resonate with folks. You need data. You need to be able to understand data to see like what's working, what's not working, and potentially, understanding sort of some of the data, some of your audiences and all of that. What kind of content is going to work on your channel? What kind of content should you replace it with? What sort of flows of content, have worked for you in the past? And that's really just sort of programming, your channel on a single platform. Now let's start, but really the thing is like, you need to compare performance across services. So you don't just have your channel on one service, you're hopefully going to have your channel on multiple services. You'll have your same channel on, say, Pluto or Zumo or Plex, and you'd like to really understand things like, I want to compare like what I'm getting. Is my viewership different by platform? Is it different by time slot, by day? I mean, what are the differences? What kind of audiences are coming in. And then obviously we're all in this for the money, right? So are you monetizing the same way across platforms? What are sort of normalized metrics that you can use to compare performance on one platform versus another? Because platforms are going to have different reaches. If you have a particular platform, it's that is on a particular, say, smart TV brand that only has so much of a market share, it's only going to have so much of a reach, because it's tied to that smart TV. But are you really monetizing that very well compared to, say, a cloud platform or a cloud service, which could essentially be anywhere? So to really answer those questions, like, am I doing better in some platforms than others? I mean, it's all going to be relative, of course. It's not just your absolute revenue that you're getting here, but things like revenue per hour viewed, what is your revenue per thousand? Things like that are really what you need. Metrics like that are really what you need to be able to compare and see how successful you are, what you need to do in terms of working with the platforms and services to, it's on your channel position or promotion or other things like that. But you need data to guide you. You need to know you can do a lot with these services. You can work with the services and achieve a lot. But you need to know what to ask. You need to know what to ask for, and you need to know what changes are going to help you. And it's the data, it's the reporting that's going to guide you through that. And then lastly, well, not lastly, but another thing too, is that, a lot of channel providers put their channel together, not with content that, they own outright, but the licensed content. There's a lot of, for example, movie fast channels out there. They're licensing, these films from others to put into their channel. So they generally pay based on a revenue share. Sometimes there's a minimum guarantee, sometimes there's an advance, occasionally it's license fee based. But it's definitely something that you need to know the by title revenue. You need to know not just how much money you made on the channel, but you need to know how much money Brotherhood of Justice made versus Salvador on this channel to be able to pay out that rev share properly. So you need this by title revenue. So you really need to have all these kinds of things, and these are all sort of different things that you need to have, and those things will help you drive your reporting. So your reporting really is kind of crucial to really building up your audience, curating your channel, building your presence, and being able to do the things you need to do, like paying content providers. It's a really crucial part of your business. So you're probably asking, what's so hard about getting good reporting and fast? Is there something that's hard about it? So let me, so the way to answer this question, and the way I'm going to start to answer this question, is really about the ecosystem of fast itself. I mean, we all hear fast, we all see those up and to the right charts and all of that. But let's dig a little bit deeper and talk a little bit about like what fast is really composed of, what the ecosystem is composed of. Because there's a lot of parties in this ecosystem, just like any media ecosystem. But fast has its own set of parties. It's evolved very quickly. Generally, there's 6 broad categories of different parties or groups within the fast channel ecosystem. A lot of these folks overlap, do the things that one or the other party does, and playing some different roles. So there's a lot of overlap. But generally, you've got obviously the the fast channel providers over here in red. So the folks who are actually providing the fast channels, creating the fast channels. There's the content owners, in the case in which it's not their content, but they need to license the content from somebody else. There are an important category here of tech providers within the industry. So these are service providers who have a technology platform that you really need to have one of these guys. I mean, you could build some of this yourself, but nobody seems to. You really need one of these guys to help you out to do a lot of different things, which we'll get into in a moment. One of them is just really creating your channels. So you're the fast channel provider, you have rights to certain assets, and then you need to create the actual channels themselves. So the channels themselves are an entity almost unto themselves. And then those channels then, obviously you need to distribute them to the fast services or platforms. So, it's your Plexes, your Vizios, your Rokus, your Slings. There's plenty of these all over the world. Some are regional, Some are just US based, some are global, all different types and sorts of these different FAST services. As well as there are different types of content, of course, within the FAST ecosystem. And then ultimately, obviously, we're all trying to make money from this. So there's sets of monetization platforms. You have your, certainly your ad servers like your, GAM or Publica or SpringServe. You've got, DSPs like Rubicon on the other side, who provide some of the demand. You've got supply side platforms. You've got data platforms. But all your monetization can come from all these different places. And have ad networks, who can help you out as well throughout all this. Your monetization can have a lot of different sources coming from it. So these are generally kind of the parties. Digging a little deeper, let's talk about tech providers. So there's a lot of tech providers. Here is just a small smattering of tech providers, as many as would fit into this chart, this logo side. What do you do with the tech provider? So a tech provider, you use a tech provider to create your channels. They've got the tools for you to create these channels, both the user interfaces, uploading the content, the ability to store your assets and create those channels, and then create the schedule for those channels, obviously, and then distribute it. So distributing it, they all have relationships with many of the FAST services and platforms out there, and you can use them to distribute it. And in some cases, these tech providers will also provide the actual playout. Sometimes they'll just feed the content to the service, but many times they'll do the actual playout. So they'll serve as the CDN of actually playing out that stream of content to the end consumer. And then they'll also do the ad insertion. So they'll do the call out to the ad server, as they're playing out the content, and you hit an ad break or ad pod starts, and they'll make that call to SpringServe or GAM or Publica or whatever the service is using as an ad server. They've also do monetization, so they'll help monetize too. They will sell ads, take a share of the ads and sell them too. And of course, they provide reporting. So these guys they provide a lot of reporting. And then much, much more. Mogi's got a matchmaking service to help you out. World's got all sorts of tools on performance advertising. Otera has an ad network. There's a lot of different things that these folks do, and they're incredibly useful and incredibly helpful. And really, one of the big reasons that FAST has grown so quickly is because they've enabled the other folks to create channels and get them done very, very quickly. They've very quickly all filled this hole and this need. So let's talk about the FAST channels themselves. Generally, there's two kinds of these. You've got, say, third-party channels. These are curated by the content provider, by the channel provider. And, the service providers on the other side, they just license the channel, and the channel just streams out, in whole to them. The service provider doesn't really have any influence on what is on the channel. They're not programming it. They'll get data into their EPG about what the different shows in the channel are, but they're just taking the stream, and it's really up to the content provider to curate all this stuff. Then you've got your owned and operated channels. Basically, the service providers, they can also acquire titles individually, and the service providers themselves will curate these channels. So you'll see in these, as opposed to true sort of content things like BritBox Mystery, Taste Made Travel, a Johnny Carson show, you'll see things like Pluto Crime Movies, or Pluto Thrillers, or American Classics, brought to you by Vizio. All of these different ones are curated by the service provider. They'll acquire individual titles, sometimes from these same content providers as well, and curate these channels. And you'll see, like, you've heard of single IP channels, kind of like the Johnny Carson show here. That's just all it's going to have is the Johnny Carson show on it. You'll have owned and operated who will license individual single IP titles and curate their own single IP channels as well. So they really do look kind of a lot like each other. And then, just to make it a little more confusing, the service provider oftentimes will license their channels to another service provider, in which it becomes a third-party channel again. So Pluto Thrillers is, of course, on Pluto TV, but it's also on Vizio. So on Pluto TV, it's an owned and operated channel. When it's on Vizio, it's a third-party channel. So these things do get a little confusing. And there's also syndication of channels. Certainly, like Zumo, for example, syndicates a lot of its channel offerings to some of these service providers. speaking of service providers and services, platforms and services, there's two broad types of these as well. You've got cloud-based services. So basically, these are services available to really anybody, depending upon what country you're in, via an app or the web. And often these guys do their own playout, do their own SSAI. And frequently, they syndicate all of their or some of their channels to CTV-based services. So the CTV-based services, these CTV OS services, they're basically specific to a particular CTV operating system. So like in Vizio, it's specific to SmartCast, and Samsung is specific to their operating system, and so forth, and so on Google TV, on Android TVs. All of these are specific to particular ones. And then you've got some folks like the Roku channel, because you'll have specific TV brands. Like I have a TCL TV, but it's a Roku TCL TV. So the OS is provided by Roku, and they become an OS service because I've got Roku channel on there. So they're really available primarily to users of that connected TV operating system. And generally, these guys also allow third-party playout and SSAI. It's just what they do. Originally, they syndicated most of their channels from these folks. Now they still do that, of course, but they also do a lot of direct licensing of individual channels back to the channel provider. So that's kind of the world of services and platforms. So there's a lot of complexity here, as I mentioned. And then finally, like monetization. How I'm a fast channel. I mean, how do I make money, right? How ultimately they make money. And at the highest level, simple version, there's basically three ways of doing it. One, you have rev share. So basically, this is the entire inventory of potential ad slots. The platform, the channel can take responsibility for selling the ads, and then pays the other party a revenue share, generally 50%. So so for example, if you are you're say the BBC, and you have a channel, top tier channel on Vizio, and you take rev share with Vizio and let Vizio sell it, Vizio will then give you back 50% of what they were able to make from their sales of your inventory. Another option is what's called inventory share. And in this case, you have this overall inventory, so overall set of ad slots, and each party, the platform and channel, takes a share of that. Perhaps it's 50-50, perhaps it's 60-40, perhaps it's 55-45, whatever it ends up being. And then each of the parties basically keeps what it sells. So they take their share of the inventory, and then each party is up to them to monetize it as best they can, and they'll keep every dollar of it. And then lastly, there's backfill, which essentially is generally applicable to, well, it is applicable to inventory share generally. And this is in the case that one of the two parties is not able to fully sell its portion of the inventory share. That can revert back then to the other party, and they'll do it. Often they use a third party, to deal with the backfill. So it's really those basic methods. And that's kind of the simple version of advertising monetization. The complicated version is there's just a lot of, as many pieces of the higher level fast world. In the CTV ad stack world, there are even many, many more pieces, many, many more players, from CDNs to SAI vendors, the actual ad servers, both on the platform side, the agency side, SSPs, DSPs, ad exchanges in the middles, DMPs for data services. There are just a lot of players, in this world, which gets complicated, and that we'll be getting into what this means for reporting. But before I jump into that, I think that this is a good time to make a stop here and take any questions that people may have before I get to the denouement, if you will.
Thanks, Michael. It's a terrific overview, a 101 of the what's going on in FAST and how to get there. I wish I could say that it sounded easy. It's not really it might be a fast for dummies, but I don't know if I feel any smarter having listened to it. There's a lot to get done there. I see all of the boxes, and all I can think about is integration and somehow connecting all of those things. Is that something that as a fast channel, or someone that has content and wants to get fast off the ground, is that something I have to take care of myself, integrating all those boxes, or are there integration
Yeah,
partners that help with
that
that?
that's actually a great question, and that's actually the reason the fast tech providers came along. So your fast tech provider, whether it's an
Hmm.
Alagi or a Whirl, a Terra Frequency, any of those, they are the ones with all of the connections in place. So you, as a fast channel provider, all you do is, if you do a deal with, say, Whirl, you go into Whirl's user interface, their tools. You basically upload your assets, create your schedule. They've got plenty of nice tools. They all have plenty of nice tools for doing that sort of thing. And then, of course, you work out, either in the UI there or with your account rep, telling them that, hey, I've got to deal with Pluto, I got to deal with Roku, I've got to deal with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for these
Mhm.
channels. For this channel, I've got a deal here. And they already will have a lot of these pre-built integrations. So they will just connect, directly with those services. So they're already tied into that. And both in terms of being able to, either get the content there if the service is doing the play out, or do the play out if the tech provider is allowed to do it, and then do the ad insertion. So the ad insertion is all tied in there. Amagi is already connected up to to Vizio's ad server, so they know how to send ads to Vizio seamlessly. And
Okay.
to Vizio Spring Serve seamlessly. So that integration is done. Now, obviously, the tech providers, depending upon each of them is at a certain level of integration with other folks in the ecosystem, because it's not magic. They've got to do these integrations one by one and get them going and maintain them and all of that. So, some will have connections with these services, some will have connections with those services. At this point, generally, most of the larger services are connected into most of the major tech providers. But certainly there's a lot of smaller services. There's hundreds of services out there. And not every, obviously not every connection exists with every tech provider, but that's just life. They're all moving towards it. But it makes it one heck of a lot simpler for the channel provider, because they don't have to worry about all of those integrations unless they want to, right? If they want to take inventory share and they're more sophisticated and all of that, and they'd like to do that, they certainly can.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's, as you mentioned, it's really, I think, the technology and the service providers in this space that have allowed it to grow as much as I can't
Absolutely.
imagine trying to scale this whole industry across all the different content providers, channels, if everyone's just trying to do it themselves.
Yeah.
It would
And,
be.
and that's true of any kind of media, as it's grown up. I mean, you look at, like, sort of the old days of TVOD ST. I mean, a lot of that growth was due to companies like Ubiquity in its various
Mhm.
iterations of On Demand Group, TVN, and Avail, and Gray Juice Labs, and other folks there who served as aggregators to get those things going. But yeah, it's this the speed at which fast has seemed to just launch upon us. None of that could have happened without the tech
Yeah,
providers being
yeah.
in place.
Hey, we have
Absolutely.
a question from Frank Cornell. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Frank. Thanks for your question. Can you give an example of third-party backfill providers?
47 Samurai's one. So they, who's on my chart there. So they provide third party backfill services for a number of our customers, actually. And but there's a lot of them out there. I'm not, so, I'm not calling them out in particular. There's quite a few of those vendors out there. Happy to provide Frank separately with a list of the ones that I know if he happens to be looking for one.
All right, terrific. Well, I'm excited to hear about the reporting side of this. So
Okay.
why don't we get you back into your presentation, Michael? Thanks a lot.
All right, sounds good. Okay. All right. So, as I was mentioning, so, it's complicated environment, as Eric agreed that we're going. What does this mean for reporting? So we're kind of at the part of fast that doesn't really work so well. If you got a single fast channel, let's say you're not going to have it on a single fast platform, but just for one platform, your reporting can come from any or all of these sources. Your viewership reporting could be coming from the platform itself. It could be coming from a tech provider. Your revenue reporting could be coming from a tech provider, from the platform, from a monetization platform, either your own or a third party. Could be your own, ad vendor. Could be a backfill provider, as Frank just mentioned. It could be, it could be a lot of different places. So I guess what's the problem with all of this? Well, first off, of course, the reporting is going to be all in different formats. Some you'll be getting from dashboards and portals. Some you'll be, getting in some PDF emailed to you. Some will look more like a statement, in a text document than anything else. Some may be, an API, though I haven't really seen many of those. It's generally laborious to retrieve this reporting, whether it's coming to you directly from email or you've got to go to a portal to go get this reporting down. We'll get into how laborious that can be, but it's fairly laborious to get it because you've got to go in, you got to log in, you got to get the report, you got to look at the report, and you may be going to multiple portals to be able to do this. A key thing too is, if you recall, when I was talking about how you use reporting earlier, oftentimes you'll need to have title level revenue, especially if you need to pay content providers. And viewership generally is at a title level, but revenue is quite often at a channel level. So it's a lump sum, which we'll get into in a minute. There, of course, are no identifiers in the reporting, except obviously from the ones from your tech provider. So you'll have to, match based on titles if you want to try to line things up and understand, the different what's the revenue across different platforms for different titles for the same title. And you can have a ton of platforms, and hopefully you do, because that's how you're going to make your money. You're going to you want to have your channels on as many platforms as possible. Most likely you'll have multiple channels and multiple platforms if you're making a serious go at this as a business. So let's get into some of the little more detail in some of these problems. So I mentioned lump sum reporting about whether you're getting. So I've got this little thing here, since we do have a lot of the detailed data. Here's what you get for rev share reporting from the 9 of the top fast services. These are not necessarily the 9 top fast services, though most of these are. This is probably many of the top 10 services that are out there in terms of revenue active users. I've hidden their names to protect the innocent, of course, here. So you can see, for these different services, some of these are cloud services, some of these are CTV based, some of these guys syndicate and all of that. You can see the reporting level. Some of them you do get, the revenue reporting. So this is about rev share reporting, revenue reporting. Sometimes you do get it at a title level. A lot of times you get it just at a lump sum. Sometimes you get these things nice and monthly. One of them gives you a title at a daily level. That's really lovely. And another, although you get it at a title level, it's only quarterly. They'll invariably, of course, give you net revenue. They have to, because that's how much they're paying you. So you obviously will always get that. But sometimes you want to know a little more information. Maybe you want to do gross revenue to make sure they're doing the calculations correctly. You'd like to understand impressions and perhaps, so you can get to effective CPM. You want potentially to have requests so that you can get to, what's the actual fill rate they're doing. Should you, to make your decisions of like, should I take inventory share in this? And are they really monetizing me, fully based upon what am I getting? You can compare your CPMs and your other metrics here, but in some cases you can't, because the data is missing. So it's just kind of all over the place, platform to platform, and it gets even worse when you get to some of the newer platforms and smaller platforms out there. These are the big ones. These are the major ones. They've all been out there for years. Next, tech providers. Remember, I said the tech providers do provide reporting, and they do. They provide for the data that they have. And in many cases, they need to have CDN and SSI to actually get you that reporting, because they need to have that, because they're not the ones, it's not their service. If they're providing CDN, if they're providing playout for the service, then they do have pretty good data. Certainly, they're providing SSAI, they'll have really good data too. but that's only for the data they have. They generally have great dashboard reporting, beautiful dashboards, very, very rich. But you know, I mean, although you want to look at that, you do need to download this for your own analysis, and that can be hard. With one of the major tech providers, in order to download something like, I want to see daily viewership by title, by platform, for each of my channels, by territory, broken down by territory. And let's say you have 3 channels. That's 270 files per month that you've got to go into the portal one by one, request 270 times each month, getting laboriously, getting all those Excel files down there. So that is a bit laborious. And then it gets worse. Because you need to allocate your lump sum revenue. Remember, we talked about our lump sum revenue before, and you need to get by title revenue. Well, you're going to allocate it with all of this viewership data. So you're going to take that lump sum revenue from service A, because you'll probably just get this single number that comes to you. You'll, look at all those 270 viewership data files. You'll need to make sure you have all 270 of those. You'll need to make sure that, which ones are applicable to the lump sum revenue from that particular service. And then you'll need to allocate. So you'll need to allocate this number across all of that viewership data that you have, and then do it again for the next lump sum revenue number for probably a different subset of these files and different rows, of course, within these files. So you've got to do all of that, and then again for the next one, and then again for the next one. And if you've got multiple sets of viewership data, which you often have, then this gets more complicated. And in the end, where you end up is Excel hell. That is, basically the end point of where you get to, and that's some of the difficulties, with this reporting ecosystem. So now comes the sales pitch. How can we help you? So with media, for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we have sort of 4 general offerings. We help track content performance everywhere, hence the title of this presentation. We automate partner payments, revenue management, help integrate your content supply chain, and we connect consumers to content with our first-party data. So we do all these different things. Obviously, the one that is relevant to our discussion today is our ability to track content performance everywhere, which we do for fast AVOD, as well as SVOD, TV everywhere, social, TVOD, every kind of thing. We've been doing this for a long time for a lot of folks out there. But lately, we've adapted ourselves to fast, and we've had a really great response. We've actually created a sort of a new brand for our fast offering, which we're calling Fast Track. So tracking fast, and we offer it in 2 different versions: track and pay. Track is really about all of the tracking across fast, but also other media. If you have other media for your content, really getting that mapped back to, at a title level, having that all allocated and cleaned up, and then making that available through reporting and dashboards. And pay, it's really about, taking that data and using it to, if you have content providers, using it to determine how much you need to pay each content providers based upon the by title revenue that you've just determined in the track side of things. And we just do this all in a nice automated flow. But getting down to the track side of things, the stuff that our system does, I mean, the way the flow is that there's a ton of data sources out there, as we've all talked about. All of that flows into our system. We go grab it if it's on a portal. We ingest if it's coming via email or SFTP or S3 or API. So we'll get that from, ad servers, technology providers, platforms for viewership and for revenue, and reporting from other methods like subscriber-based reporting, transactional reporting for TVOD, SVOD, all apps, all of those different things. That all gets automatically ingested into Fast Track. We tie that to titles, which are each of our Fast Track customer maintains using our title data entry and maintaining those in our title database. And all of that then gets mapped, automatically and tied to basically to a title. Then it goes through our allocations engine where we automatically do that Excel hell. All of that just happens within our system, our algorithms. And then it's all available for reporting in dashboards and self-service reporting. So you'll just have visual dashboards, rich visual views. We've got multiple dashboards. You can look at your key metrics, simple interactive views to give you awareness and visibility to what's going on. Of course, you can download to Excel. And if you do want to do more analysis and download cleaner reporting, we also have self-service reporting where you can create any report. Basically choose any set of the dimensions or metrics that we are capturing and normalizing for you. And there's lots of summarization, pivoting features, unlimited data volumes. And all of this is really fast because it's all based on a Redshift backend. And you can even schedule reports out of here via email. So that's our solution, and that's how we're solving these problems. It's generally available and it's currently in use by numerous customers. Please reach out and contact us for a demo. And thank you. So at this point, I'd love to open to any additional questions that may come up.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate your being here today. As you're talking about that, I'm reminded of a similar chart that I used to present that involves something you're calling Excel hell. I called it a swirling vortex of Excel spreadsheets. And it's funny
You could
how
just see the animation of that one.
that's right. It was exactly what you'd imagine, a big tornado sucking everything with swirling PDFs and Excel files and Word documents, cocktail napkins, smoke signals, all of the things you can think of to communicate between the various parties. Only now I think it's even more complicated. You mentioned 270, so it could be way more than that, actually. That's just 3 channels. And one question I have for you is, let's say I'm there, okay? I'm in Excel hell, and I come to Whip Media, and I'm just help me out of this. Let help solve this problem for me. I love the dashboard. What can I expect? Like, what's the integration time frame? Is that something that that can be done in a month or so, or is
Yeah,
it
much less than a month actually. So the way that we've evolved our product, as you know, with Media Morph's been around for a long time. We've had an enterprise product with Fast Track. In addition to a snazzy name, we've also made it more out of the box and self-service. So just like the fast tech providers, we've done our standard integrations now. So now we have a set of about 75 platforms that we have what we call our standard platforms, that we have pre-built integrations. So it really becomes a process of obviously deciding that you'd like to use the product and sign up with us, and then we work out, okay, which of these platforms do you have or currently distribute, which of these tech providers that you use. We have one of our onboarding people will help you fill out sort of the set of credentials that we'll need for each of those different platforms, and help you get your titles in. And away you go. And the whole process, it just takes it's less than a month. It takes a couple of 3 weeks to get to the end of the process and get you going. It's a very fast up and running these days.
Now, let's say I'm not quite to Excel hell yet. It's like,
Just
it's
Excel heck. Okay, yes.
smoldering, right? And I want to get ahead of that. Can that be an advantage in terms of the integration and the amount of effort it takes to get things rolling?
Yeah, from our perspective, right? Well, obviously we like to sell somebody, but in general, right? You want to spend if you're a fast channel, you're a fast channel provider and all of that. I mean, you want to be spending your time, having as much data as possible to analyze, and not spending your time to sort of assembling the data and getting it together for yourself. You want to be in a mode of analyzing data so that you can critically address like the content and the programming that you have, and critically address your relationships with each of the service providers, because that's what's make or break for your revenue. The more time that you can focus on that and on growing your business, and less time on doing things like manipulating spreadsheets and making sure, did I get that right? Did I get that right? I think the better focus you're going to have on your business, and certainly I would think it also make your personal life a little better by giving you some time as opposed to spending all night dealing with spreadsheets.
And it doesn't end, like it never gets better. That's the thing. You think, all right, well, once we've got this built, And we've got all these spreadsheets and we've like, I don't know, got our macros or whatever it is that we're doing to turn them into something that we can actually manage and interpret. Then things change. One of your platforms decides they're going to change their format, and or you get another platform. Somebody sends you some crappy data and you got to fix that. And it just keeps getting, you end up hiring more people to manage it, which is, like not an efficient way to do this. It's not what you're in the business to do. So I'm a huge supporter of what you're doing,
Thanks.
and across the industry, that take advantage of the technology companies that are making such a big difference. You showed that matrix of
Mhm.
the I guess the reporting values that are being reported by different
Mm.
service providers. And it was like a fairly sparse matrix in some cases. I do love the Excel health slide though. That was
Yeah.
nice. And there it is. And like one question that I have, and we hear this a lot from our members, that um they'd love to see more data. They'd love to see more values
Mhm.
in this. And I know you can't speak for individual organizations, of course. But broadly speaking, do you see this changing over time? That I know you're working with a lot of the service providers. Do you
Mhm.
Can you provide some kind of indication of where you think this might be going in terms of this
I mean,
matrix?
I think the obviously everybody in the industry wants the industry to move forward. We're all kind of pulling together to make that happen. There's still, some, you have fast services and you have fast channel providers, and it's negotiation like any other, right? They're both on either side of a table. But yes, it's rev share and they're trying to work better, but it is definitely negotiation, and there's definitely advantage for one side having more information than the other. Perhaps not as pronounced as like SVOD, where things are a license fee and Netflix had all the information and the
Mhm.
content provider had none of the information. But it's still there's definitely an advantage in sort of a asymmetry there. And I see some of the service providers do have that attitude strongly. Others are more open and do are more open to providing more data. But then you get into, well, I think, and this kind of goes to Maurice's question, right? So the service providers, the platforms, this is a problem that they certainly face. This is by no means the only problem in FAST, nor is it
Mhm.
necessarily the most pressing one for the services and the platforms. I mean, we all know like personalization or the complete lack of personalization, is one that's out there. The addressing shelf space issues, like the limitation that really the way that UIs are now, the way discovery is now, you really can't support more than say 300 channels, on a service, because no user could really understand, more than that, unless you change the personalization, unless you change better discovery methods, all of those things. The blank slate problem, which I think we hear a lot of, if you watch a lot of FAST, you'll often get used to the
Mhm.
words, "We'll be right back." Where you see an entire pod going out to programmatic, and then you just see these funny slates, usually of the show, going, one by one by one by one, where things are now monetized because of some of the monetization problems within programmatic, because of the different minimums that are in place. So there are a lot of different things. I mean, I think if you look at the desk of your head of product for any of these services, they've probably got a backlog, like, I don't know, probably as long as the Nile River, right? I mean, it's endless. So again, a lot of this is prioritization, getting there. I mean, they see some of those things as potentially more existential problems, right? About how to, how to survive, and the reporting gets pushed back a little in priority. That said, for the channels, it's incredibly important. It is really, really important. And one of the things that's the biggest thing, of course, that's missing is, all right, so let's say you do get all this allocation, you do get these numbers, you find out that, for this particular title across all the services, great, you had 72,323 hours of viewing in May. What does that mean?
Mhm.
Is that good? Is that bad? How's that compared to my competitor shows? You don't know. There's just no comparison in the industry right now. I mean, we were trying to address that in a number of different ways with a number of initiatives. I think there's a number of industry groups who are thinking about this, like certainly the ISA, others who are thinking about different ways of, getting some more, sharing of information. But that's certainly like, it's not like, I mean, in one way, this is what TV has an advantage with, right? You can, for all of TV's lackings, you can see a Nielsen report. You can know what, if you're NBC, you know what the show on ABC did. You know what the show on PBS did. Everybody knows what everybody did. There's advertisers know, what each of those relative audiences are for each of those shows. It's although you have to get the data from Nielsen or, from one of the other sources, you have metrics out there across shows. What is a big show, what is a not so big show. Right now it's completely blind and fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that it seems like the data exists to do that. And it's just a matter of, well, a lot of it is, getting permission to use it. And yeah, I mean, I think that there's a real insecurity about sharing information. Sort of
even
feels
when
like
you're not sure of the reason, right?
Yeah,
You're not
that's
even sure
right. Yeah.
why. There's just sort of like a reptilian instinct to say no.
Yeah, I think that's right. And and then I think a lot of the DTC movement that happened with the big studios was all about data. Like we're not
Right.
getting the data from the platforms, and we
You're
need
not getting
it.
anything
So
from Netflix. You're not getting anything
we're
from
gonna
any of these other
start our own
platforms.
business, and
Right.
well, so because we need the data.
Yes.
Yeah, well, maybe like
Well, then they
billions
move
of
to,
dollars
well,
of
wait, we need
licensing might have
profits
been
too.
nice to
So
have. Okay, we don't need that. We'll take the data.
so yeah, so fast you have that's exploded, grown up quickly, and it is I mean, you can get individual data as an individual participant within fast. You can get your data, sure. You may have to do some work to do it, but to get any sort of industry data to understand, hey, am I a top quartile channel, right? And am I, where am I on these different surfaces on top of that, or or decile, or your true ranking, or it's hard to know.
Yeah, well, and
You're just
benchmarking,
guessing.
right? And and
Yeah.
if you do try something, you do some marketing or do something with the order in which you're placing your titles in a channel. If all you're getting is a lump sum revenue report back, you really have no idea how effective your
Yeah,
manipulations are.
exactly. And at best, you only know relative to yourself how effective they are.
Yeah, at best, that's right. We're about at time here. Michael, we did have a request, and I'm wondering if maybe we'd have you back sometime to do a demo, or if a friend, anonymous attendee, asked about demos of the Fast Track product.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. So definitely reach out to me. I think my email address was on, if I can get past all these various builds. Reach out to me for a demo. Just email address, msid at webmedia.com. Happy to do it. And yes, potentially in a future one, we can do this. I'm happy to make the presentation available if that's that's fine. I will take all my builds out of it though. So
you can't get that
so it's unwieldy. Yeah, so the Excel hell will be going
hell
away.
graphic. Is
That'll be
that
going away.
patented?
Sorry, it's just plopped right on top of mine or other, so that one's gotta go away.
No, well, thank you for the presentation. And for everybody out there, yes, and in answer to your question, Lou, the presentation is available and will be available in a couple of days as soon as we get it processed and out in our library for our members. So yeah,
And the
thanks for
recording as well,
being.
right?
What's that?
The recording as well, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the video. I meant
The
the
recording, yeah.
actual video of this episode will be out there, as well as presentation. Yeah. So, well, thanks, Mike. Michael,
All
it's
right.
great seeing you again, and thanks for being with us, and giving us some insights into first of all, fast how it's done. I think it's obviously very complicated. It's a lot going on, but it was a great tutorial. So thanks for being here.
All
And thanks
right.
to all of you, our dear audience, for attending and for your continued support of OTTX. As I mentioned, the session was recorded and it'll be available on the OTTX website at OTTX.org. And we have a veritable cornucopia of presentations from our online and in-person events over the last few years out there. I want to remind everyone about our last event of 2023. It's actually 3 events. They're all taking place on the same day, that being December 14th. We'll kick things off with our 2nd annual Diversity Summit, offering presentations, panels, and discussion groups for people in underrepresented groups in our industry. If there are folks that are in your organization that could benefit from attending, please send them our way. We'd love them to be a part of what we're doing with the Diversity Summit. Following that, will be our awards presentation and executive luncheon honoring the Media Play News 40 most important people in streaming. And the day's going to wrap up with the OTTX Industry Strategic Review, where major research institutions provide critical analysis touching all sectors of the streaming industry. We'll also hear from leading venture capitalists and members of the financial community who will be offering investment advice and discussing the effects of the writers and actors strikes, new deals, growth strategies, mergers, acquisitions, exit strategies, and more. We're looking forward to getting our OTTX together again one more time before the end of the year. So hope to see you there. Once again, thanks to Whip Media for all your support. And Michael, thanks for your presentation today. We're really grateful to you and for all of our members who make this session and our many programs and activities possible. If you're not yet a member of OTTX, we'd like to invite you to consider joining our growing and vibrant community. You can learn more on our website, OTTX.org, or just tap out an email to us at info@OTTX.org. Thanks, everybody. That concludes our webinar today, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks again, Michael.
Bye-bye.